Today on Grumpy Man Reviews.
Hello and welcome to this review for the Boyu ACQ-003 electromagnetic air pump. This is actually the type that's a piston driven one, unlike the normal diaphragm ones which many people see in the aquarium industry. Like I said, I don't know if you can quite make that out on that. There, but yes, this is apparently a piston type pump. Now this particular model was actually listed on Amazon as being a 40 litres per minute pump. However, the actual box it's come says it's actually listing it as a 50 litres per minute pump on this particular model. Now it is supposed to use 35 watts of power, and it does actually state it on the top of the box there, it's also 35 watts. Now we'll see, I'll actually do a proper inspection of this and see how close these specifications are. Now this particular one that I did buy from Amazon came with 12 metres of 6mm airline. Now I wouldn't actually say this is 6mm. I've actually got some 6mm compressor airline fittings, and this doesn't actually fit into them. Now I can't really complain about it because after all, the hose that came with this did actually come apparently free. Saying nothing comes free in this world, but apparently that was free, so we'll see. Right, there was also some other goodies that were supposed to have come free with this, so we'll have a quick look inside the box now. So we've got the some little certificate thing, a user manual which looks like it could be heavily in Chinese. Oh, it's half Chinese and half English. Now this is the 6-way connection that came with it, that there was actually put on the listing. It's I would say a very cheap plastic one. It wouldn't take much to probably break that. And also on this listing from Amazon, it did actually come with 6 air stones and 6 one-way valves. Now I'm assuming they're all buried into the bottom of the box here somewhere. So I'll go ahead and just remove all that and I'll resume the video. Right, okay, so I've just unpacked everything that came in a little box. So obviously we've got the hose here, that's supposed to be 12 metres. There's a 6-way air divider there. There's a small length of braided hose. A brass nipple. Obviously the cord, which is supposed to be 1.2 metres long. Like I said, because this one came from Amazon, it was a package, so it came with 6 non-return valves and also 6 air stones as well. The air stones are, I would say, about 30mm in diameter. Now, here we go, I'll take you first of all to the actual pump. So like I said, we've got on the front here, this is obviously the outlet ports on the front. On the back, here's where the inlet is for it. And it doesn't really have much else really written on this. I'll actually do a test as well to find out whether the earth has got continuity between that and the casing, just to double check, because obviously there isn't anything that's actually got a British kite mark on this, which could be a little bit concerning. I'll say it's just got literally a sticker on the side of here which says date of production, the serial number, which does the serial number mean anything? Probably not, no. Just got the make and model written on there as well. So there we go. Right, now some more conflicting information. Just noticed on the side here. The output now states on this sticker, it states 60 litres per minute. Now obviously, if we look at the back of this box again, I don't actually think there was any... Oh no. So on the side of this box here, it does actually have a 60 litres per minute model, which is the ACQ-005, just there. So I said that one shows at 60 litres a minute. Now this one does actually show a bit of conflicting information, which definitely states it's the ACQ-003 at 60 litres a minute. Bit confusing here really, because there's 3 different specifications on this listing now. Because on the actual Amazon website it states it's a 40 litres per minute pump. The box states it's 50 litres, however the actual label on the pump unit itself states 60. So I may actually take this up with the suppliers or the manufacturer and find out what actually is a true fact. I may also measure this myself and try and get a better scope of what's actually true with this. Like I said, with it being a cheap Chinese model, I don't honestly hold that much hope for any of this information to be accurate. So okay, for the purposes of this test now, I've actually got a sound app on my phone which is going to measure the decibel volume, the kettle which we're going to use for the benchmark, and then the pump are roughly the same distance away from the phone as they currently are. So what we'll do for this test, I'll boil the kettle again and we'll just have a look at the screen. Okay, so for that test, the kettle was actually quietly bubbling away there, peaking at around about 70 decibels. So now we'll go for the pump. And that pump was registering a solid 83 decibels then. Okay, right, so I've now mounted the pump briefly, just for test purposes. It is actually still loose, it's not mounted to the base of it. However, the pump is actually sitting directly onto its rubber feet that come with it. The hose is coming through. I've kept the holes around the hose and around the power cable as tight as possible, so obviously no noise is really going to be coming out for this test purpose. I've just dragged the cable through, removing it from the plug, and I've just rewired it back onto the plug. Okay, then we've got the manifold, which is coming out here, which has got all 6 lines, and the 6 lines are then feeding into this sink, where I've got currently 6 air stones for this test. There's 6 on there. So there you go, you've got all 6 air stones there for this test. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and plug it in, and we'll see how well it goes. Right, so... Okay, so we've got a lot of bubble activity inside the sink currently, and to be fair, I've actually removed the lid from the box. I've now fitted the lid to the box, and it is nice and quiet, so I'll take the lid back up again. As you can tell there how much more noise there is. Obviously there's a little bit of vibration. I think with the power cable it's slightly rubbing, or when we put the feet down slightly, it's still vibrating. So lifted off slightly, obviously it's now stopping itself, which means that there's something to do with the rubber feet aren't quite that good. But it is dampening most of the noise when I put the lid back onto the box. Like I said, if I was to mount this outside now, I think I'll be perfectly happy with how much hum's coming from that. By the time I've mounted it into its secondary box, it'll be feeding into the house. So yeah, so I'll just have a quick look at all these air stones that are in here now, just check how well they're bubbling. So it seems like each one of them is actually doing a decent output. So yeah, that's right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to briefly try and do a volume test just to see how much this pump is actually outputting. It won't be that accurate, but I'm going to try and do about the best I can with what I currently have to hand. Okay, so right now what I've set up is a brief little test. It's not going to be the most accurate, but hopefully it'll give me some idea of what we're looking at here. Now what I've done is I've actually got a 2 litre jug of 2 litre jug here, and I've actually inverted it and filled it up with water. So right now to the top of the inside of this is filled with water. Now obviously the 2 litre jug normally has a little bit of a gap on the top, but this roughly is holding 2 litres. Now if the pump that have been supplied is to what either the sales figures were, what the sales sheet said on Amazon, where it's claiming it's 40 litres per minute, or whether it's actually 50 litres per minute like the box states, or even 60 litres per minute on what the actual pump sticker says, is going to vary wildly on what we're expecting to see. Now to try and keep this as fair as possible, each of the air stones is actually clustered right underneath the jug, so hopefully all of the air that's coming out of the pump will come up. Now the idea is that the air as it comes up will displace the water, so the air will fill up, push the water back down again. So what we'll do is we'll time it from however long it takes to fully empty this jug. Now with this being a 2 litre jug, and we're expecting, if we're going off the 40 litres per minute rule, we're expecting just a little over 3 seconds for it to empty this jug from when I turn the pump on. Now obviously we'll try and do a rough time on this, but it's not going to be 100% accurate, but we'll get a better idea of what this pump is actually outputting. Because at this moment in time, I said we're not entirely sure, because we don't really have any solid data, because nothing is actually corresponding. Like I said, the pump label doesn't have the right data on it, the box doesn't really have the right data on it, and even Amazon doesn't have the right data on it. So as they're all conflicting, we're going to go ahead there and we're going to go and see that. Okay, so it was roughly how I stopped the timer, and we've got a reading there of, I don't know if you can quite make that out. So we had 6.8 seconds there on that, how long it's taken to fill the jug. Now if it's taken 6.8 seconds to fill the jug up with 2 litres, we can roughly figure out there, off a quick calculation. So 60 divided by 6.8 is giving us 8.2 times the volume of this jug per minute, and it's 2 litres, which is saying it's roughly 17 litres per minute. So it's actually nowhere near the advertised throughput that they're actually selling this at. Now, obviously, this is a bit unfair, because the pump is now having to pump through 6mm pipes, as opposed to the pipe that actually comes straight off the pump itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slightly change this test. I'm going to now fit the pump with a longer length of braided air line. We'll do the test again and see how long it actually takes to fill up the jug this time with air directly, so there's no restrictions on the pipeline. Okay, so for the purpose of this next test, I've actually now retrofitted a solid piece of this braided hose, which the internal diameter is as large as the barb that's actually coming off the end of the pump. So there's now no restrictions coming from the pump, and it's going to be straight going into here. Just do a quick test. It's quietly bubbling away there. So what I'm now going to do is going to quickly fill this jug back up again, and we'll perform the test again. Right, so I've got rid of the air inside the jug. Right, and I'll try once more to get the phone started again. I think it was because my fingers were damp, it didn't quite want to start. Right, okay, so 3, 2, 1. Divided by 6, so that's 10 times, and we're saying it's 2.2. So we've got 22 litres per minute. Now that's obviously nowhere near what was actually supposed to be claiming we were getting off the pump. Like I said, on Amazon it was currently listed as a 40 litre model. On the box it states it's a 50 litre, and on the pump housing itself actually states it's a 60. So currently it's performing at 22. So there you go, there's the facts back on that pump. Now for the CE mark to actually conform, along with obviously the recycling label that's on here, the label has to be permanent, which it is, and also it's supposed to be attached to the same label as the identifier for the device. Now obviously it'll have the make and model, but it's also supposed to have the serial number on the same sticker. So if we go around to here, and it's got the make and the model, which is the ACQ part there, but unfortunately they've actually put the serial number and the date of production on a separate sticker, which in turn, that actually means that that CE mark is now completely invalid because it is no longer on there. Furthermore, this mark here for the recycling actually states, and quite clearly you can mark it there, showing it with the book and the informational symbol there, saying that the information for this recycling and the CE mark should be contained within the user manual. Now, if we go into the user manual, there should be a section on this user manual which quite clearly states what that recycling symbol means, and also the electrical safety to do with the plug and the colour codes. Now that's obviously a part of the European standard. So if we go into this manual here, it's obviously got the first page, lots of Chinese on that page. There's just a preface, scope of use, the features of the device, an overview of the device, a schematic of how the wiring circuitry inside the device is, just a working theory there it says there, but nothing to mention about the plug. There, it just references back to the theory of how it works, nothing to actually do with the safety of the device. Furthermore, it just says here, for your safety, please make sure the compressor is earth connected before use. Now, obviously, to the most consumer users, that would mean that this earth pin here, which is the first pin that connects into your plug socket as it gets connected to mains, is your earth. Now, I've performed a current test. I've actually performed a couple of tests on this device, and this device currently doesn't actually have an earth connection between this metal housing and this earth pin. There is a high resistance between the two, and that is completely unacceptable. Furthermore, between line and earth, there is actually a low resistance, which actually would fail if you were to have a portable appliance test carried out on this device. Now, that in turn would actually mean this brand new device is actually unfit for use. Now, that is really concerning, to be honest, and it shouldn't be actually possible. Now, when this device was plugged in, I've actually checked, because obviously with the low resistance coming from line to earth, neutral to earth was okay, but line to earth wasn't okay, it was unsatisfactory. So when I actually plugged this device into the mains, I was actually getting, believe it or not, 38 volts to this screw, to these metal screws on the side of this panel, to both of these metal screws, and the same on the other side. I was getting 38 volts coming out of the side of this. Now, there shouldn't be any voltage coming out of that at all, which obviously means there's a breakdown insulation either inside the cable as it enters or on the actual coil inside the device. But either way, there shouldn't be any voltage at all leaking from line to that case there. Now, I've actually raised this up with the manufacturer, and they're also now accepting a return on this device, but that shouldn't be acceptable. Now, I'll go back to the manual. Like I said, there's nothing here mentioned about the plug. It just says here, if you're using it on a fish tank, to make sure that the air pump is actually the highest point and no lower than the rest of the tank, obviously because you don't get the water coming back. It just says here also, if the air output is obviously less, you may check the tube is blocked, or if the voltage is lower than 10% of what it's rated. Now, not many people have a voltmeter to actually go and check, but obviously at the time when I was testing this, I was getting 245 volts coming out of this, out of the mains, so it was more than adequate coming in there. So if anything, it was actually slightly over, so it should definitely have been powering it enough to get the volts out. obviously on the back here, it's got some mentioning of the ISO ratings, so ISO 9001-208 and various others. It does, but like I said, on the back here, it does not mention anywhere anything to do with the plugs, safety or recycling of this device, which all are falling under the scope of this CE mark. So without that CE mark and that bin, this would have only been approved once the manual had conformed to it. But as a manual, the technical document that comes with it doesn't conform, and also the CE mark would have to, the inspector who provides the CE mark, when they look at the first device, would look at the label and the serial number to make sure that all of this information is on the same label. Now this CE mark, there is nothing to stop me from taking this label off and applying it to a different device, because I can just look at, I can remove that device label now, and remove it, and then this device will still have a CE mark on it, which is the problem. I can put the serial number onto something else, which is completely irrelevant then. So that is a problem. Like I said, so I'm really dubious whether this does actually have a fully certified CE mark. I mean, somebody might be able to prove me otherwise, but as far as I'm led to believe, the CE mark is only relevant if the serial number and the identifier of the manufacturer and the product make and model are all on the same label. In this case, they're not. So I said I'm 99% sure that this wouldn't actually have been inspected by anybody within the EU for the CE marking. Now for the next inspection, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and open up this plug, because this plug is actually saying it's conforming to the British standard for the plugs here, which is BS 1363. If you can just make that out there. So yeah, this plug says it conforms to BS 1363/A, which is the UK standard for it. Now the fonts, I would say, to the untrained eye, the font doesn't really look legitimate. It looks like a typical Chinese font that's used on a lot of imported stuff. Obviously it says that the plug's rated at maximum of 13 amps at 250 volts. Now the plug overall does look correct. There is the correct amount of sheathing here because I've measured this. So that does actually conform there. Now, if you can see it, I don't know if you can quite make it out, one of the pins is bent, which would say that there could be a slight deformity in the plastic housing, and the protrusion distance from there to the tip of that earth pin, that difference there, is correct as well. So far it's looking okay. There is a bit of a straining relief on there, but that's not required. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and open this up and check how well it was actually connected, because simple little things like this can actually make a difference. Okay, right, so we're going to go ahead and open this up. Right, so the first thing I can see right away is this. This is a quite a big problem. So the line, yep, the neutral looks nice and connected. The earth, yep, that's also equally connected. But the biggest problem is right here is this line. Now this line, believe it or not, is actually clamped currently to the actual unfused side of this, and it's actually got, you can quite make it out. There's actually some damage to the insulation of this cable. Let me try and pull it out a little bit. So as you can now see on the video, there is actually a rather substantial dent on there, and on the other side, again, more damage. Now you can't really make it out on this video, but it is actually down to the copper core inside, which, when it was actually placed back into its housing, when the lid's clamped down on it, is actually shorting out, so the line is coming straight through there. Now in the event of the device failing, drawing an overcurrent or whatever else, this 3 amp fuse would not operate, because merely it is drawing the line straight from there, as opposed to the power coming in via the pin, through the fuse, back up through the terminal and then through the wire. It's currently now going through the pin and then straight out of this little terminal here, shorting through that wire and then carrying on feeding through, so that the actual power to the device would carry on and remain live in the event of a fuse failure. In fact, the fuse wouldn't fail because we wouldn't be drawing any current through it anyway, because it'd just be bypassing. Now, as most of you who have ever fitted a plug over the years may actually know, normally you're supposed to keep all 3 lines at a slightly different length. Now this one, obviously, is either fitted by a lazy electrician or somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, but normally, obviously, the line is the shortest one for this very reason, that you can't enable it to be trapped or crushed between something else that's not supposed to, where it's not supposed to be. Now, this person obviously has decided to keep the line and the neutral the same length. The connections are tight. Now, as I'm returning this device, I should actually really make this plug safe, but like I said, the actual pump has failed its earth insulation resistance test, and Well, I said I'm not going to deal with this anyway. I've already raised this concern on email anyway to the manufacturer, to the supplier of this, and they're going to have to deal with this anyway to find out why it's gone the way it has. I would also say as well that the cable, the actual cable strain relief, does look very, very tight. Bear in mind, this is only supposed to stop the cable from coming out, and they've actually done it over that tight. It looks like it's crushing the cable underneath. Now, I'm pretty sure if I was to remove that, we would actually see some damage just underneath here as well, which could also be where it's failed the insulation resistance test, because there may be 2 crush cores inside are actually joining out, or they've damaged your insulation, and then therefore the test is actually able to cross between the 2. So, like I said, that looks like it's massively overly compressed anyway. Right, so now I'll go ahead and close this back up again, and that concludes my review.